everyone, it's Rexlina here, and today I wanted to touch on the whole idea of scale before I jump right into the work log for this particular video, just because that's such a huge part of what's going to make this prop work, and it's kind of an important part when it comes to pretty much any prop. So even if you're making like a Keyblade or a custom Borderlands gun, or if you're making Sephiroth's sword, it needs to be scaled to your body. So say there's somebody who's 6 feet tall and they wield a 10-foot sword, just to go crazy. If you're not 6 feet tall, if you're less or you're taller than that by maybe you're 7 feet, I don't know, you need to kind of adjust. So if you have someone who's like 4'5" carrying a 10-foot sword, it's going to be super ridiculous. So you need to scale it down to an appropriate size for your height. Now, in the case of Monster Hunter weapons, it's not as important just because all the weapons are basically the same size, if that makes sense. So no matter who's carrying them, they don't scale up or down. So if you have a female character who I think is probably averaged about 5'3", and the male character that I know is 5'8", if you have them equip the same weapon, they're the same size. So it's just going to look really big. But if I was really short, I would still want to scale it down just because it's just going to get too difficult to wield. And I guess if you're thinking logically, if you're going to make a weapon like you do in Monster Hunter, you'd probably make it more to your size specifications than just I'm going to make it the same as this person who's 6.5 feet tall. So I guess there's that. But in my case, I don't really have exact measurements for anything, so I kind of just have to go by eyeballing it to a point. So the way you do this is you find a picture of the character with that weapon. So if you're cosplaying Sora and you want to make a Keyblade, you kind of have to gauge what percent of his height is the Keyblade. So say the Keyblade is half his height. Then you know you need to make the Keyblade half your height for it to look the same. So hopefully that makes sense. I thought about getting into more math stuff, but I'm really not that great at math, so it would probably just be more confusing. So unfortunately the hammer I'm making is not one that there's a lot of pictures of online. So I also don't have that weapon in the game, so I can't just put it on and run around. So I did find 2 pictures. I found this super small, unfortunately, picture just of the whole thing by itself with a neutral background, which is nice. And then this is the only thing I could get of it in action. And you can kind of tell that's the head of the hunter, and that's its feet right down there. That is huge. That is quite huge. So that's going to be really scary, but yeah. So when I look at this, I have to gauge okay, this buoy part, I'm assuming it's a buoy, that's just kind of what it looks like, is about half of his height. So that's basically what I'm doing. That's what I'm starting with. I'm starting maybe a little bigger than that, and then I'll scale it back down if it looks a little too crazy. But yeah, so I want to jump into my test pattern, which is obviously, I don't know what my size is, so I just kind of have to wing it right now, but I have a huge piece of cardboard, or poster board, whatever, that I got when I used to work at GameStop. So I should probably go by there and take more of their cardboard soon, but yeah, if you work somewhere that has big window displays, you should try seeing if you can take them when you take them down, because that's how I make a lot of big patterns, is using big pieces of poster board. So yeah, so that and a measuring tape. Just measuring about what half of my height is, or at least up to my waist. And then just kind of drawing some lines and then making a vague shape. The one problem with mine is that it is 3D, so I need to make 2 of those shapes, and then I'm going to slice them in half and then kind of make a cross section, so it's going to be like this, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to fill everything else in with foam in those little wedges that I have. So it's probably going to take a lot of cutting and taping and really annoying stuff, but hopefully it'll look cool in the end. So yeah, let's jump into the whole making it thing. I can't get over how insanely huge this is. Might have to scale it down, but I have to see a full body picture first. Yeah, so I took the two pattern pieces. I kind of didn't show this part just because it was really hard to show. I couldn't get like a good angle. I put a slit halfway through on the top on one piece and halfway through on the bottom on the other piece, and then I just like slid them together. And then I just kind of taped it. So I used normal tape and then I came in with duct tape, although this is like crappy duct tape, just to kind of make it a little stiffer. Still not super secure, but I can work on that. I need another pair of hands, really, is the problem. And then just to kind of gauge the height, I taped it to this long dowel that I have. It's not what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using PVC because it's going to separate right here, but there is going to be a piece going through about this far just to give it some structure. But yeah, so I can't even fit like the whole thing in here. So this is about, I think it's closer to 7 feet, 6.5 to 7 feet. I didn't really mean to make it that tall. I can just slide the stack up and tape it again, but this is just for visualization anyway. So it barely fits in my room. There's like a foot of space, and I have a ceiling fan, so I'm like trying not to smack it. But yeah, that was really all, so you can kind of see, all there really was to it as far as making the pattern and the base goes. So what I need to do next is stabilize this and get the PVC pieces and put them in place. I'm going to actually end up kind of cutting into the PVC so that this goes in between instead of in the middle of one of these. And then get all the separating pieces, and then once I get the PVC pipe in there, I need to make the frame, and I'm probably going to go with wire to get the rest of the three-dimensional frame this way. And then I'm going to fill it with foam. So that's going to be exciting. But yeah, this is the craziness. It's huge.